Okay, we're going to get started now. We have a slight change in plans. So Congresswoman Barbara Lee is still coming, and she's on her way. But because she's running a little bit late, and we want to try to get to all the items that are on our agenda today, because we have this amazing group of speakers lined up. So what we've decided to do is to take one speaker from each of the 4 breakout sessions, and we'll do this first round as a full group with one of the speakers from each session. And then we'll hear from Congresswoman Lee, and then we'll go ahead and do the breakout sessions, and you'll be able to choose whether you want to go to the S, T, E, or M on your agenda. So I'm going to just sort of pick a few of the speakers out from the panels for this first round. Marlena Jackson, who's a research assistant from Genentech, will represent science. And we haven't rehearsed this, so hopefully it works. Paul Lamb from Man on a Mission Consulting. Can I have you represent the technology? Jenny Guzman, who was a UC Berkeley student and has just been hired as assistant professor in physics at Cal State East Bay. And Stephen Moore, a first vice president of world markets with Comerica's. He's here. Okay, so what we've asked these speakers to do is to tell us a little bit about what their pathways were from high school and how they got to where they've gotten. And I'm going to give you the opportunity, if there's time before Congresswoman Lee gets here, to ask them a few questions that you might have after you hear what their pathways have been. So I'm going to ask each of you to respond to that. And Marlena, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you guys for actually giving me the opportunity to come here and speak to you, and hopefully everyone can hear my voice. So my pathway into science really started as a passion, like when I was probably very, very young. Not sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I had an interest in science. So, so maybe about the age of 8, it was like, okay, I enjoy doing science, but not sure what that would be like. So from high school, so I'm actually from San Francisco, so my high school career began there, and I decided that I wanted to go to the University of the Pacific, which is in Stockton, California, and that's where I earned my Bachelor of Science degree in biology. And along the way, I met some really great and inspiring people that kind of took me under their wing, and that ultimately led to a few internships at one of the world's leading biotech companies, and that's Genentech. And so my pathway really was influenced by some of the amazing people that I had in my life, and I'm kind of thankful to those people today, because without them, I don't think my career would have ultimately landed at Genentech. And so what I get to do there is I do next generation sequencing technology. And if any of you guys have kind of heard about that, like the Human Genome Project, well, that was done, and it costs millions and millions and millions of dollars to do that. Now that technology has been refined in such a way that we can sequence probably an entire genome for probably about $5,000. But out there right now, they're saying that that technology is even better, where we can sequence a person's genome for about $1,000. So the future is wide open, and the question is how can we now take that technology based upon what we know about what's in your genome and be able to use that to actually cure diseases. So that's what I get to do every day, and I actually am thankful for the people that I had in my life that kind of guided me in that direction. I had great parental support along the way, and I think that was also a big factor. But I think for you guys actually have a community of people who are here to really support you guys as you try to figure out your pathway. And I really encourage you guys to actually use those resources and take this opportunity as a part of the beginning process, because when I was coming up, I didn't have this opportunity. And I think what you guys have before you, whether or not you realize it, I think it's an amazing opportunity. And I hope that you guys are able to seize that and really make it work for you. And I think all of us are here to really support you guys as you try to figure this process out.
Wow. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Oh, come on. How's it going? Thank you. I know this. Woo! After this after lunch hour is a little bit hard. So again, my name is Paul Lamb. Stephanie, thank you and your crew for inviting me. Before I give my short spiel, I want to ask you guys, how many of you know what you're going to do after high school? Wow. I'm impressed. Because I had no idea what I was going to do after high school. And if you told me I was going to pursue a career in technology, I would have said you're smoking something funny. So my pathway to technology was kind of a zigzag. And this is the way it worked. Out of high school, I thought maybe I'll go to art school. Maybe I'll go into politics, because those two work so well together, right? And then out of high school, I actually did try to go to works in politics, went to Washington, D.C. That didn't work out. So, and sorry, Barbara Lee, if she's here. So after that, I went to nonprofits, worked for a nonprofit here in the Bay Area. Then I went to graduate school in international studies, international relations, international business, and then spent 4 years overseas in Asia. So nothing to do with technology, right? Well, when I came back, I worked on another program here in the Bay Area, working with youth, some folks who were struggling, and we were working to try and get them out of negative activities like gang-related activities. So a number of the guys, after graduating from that program, said, hey, you know, what you did, these youth programs are great, but you know what? We need jobs. And that was coincidentally right around the time of the first dot-com boom, when technology jobs were very plentiful. So we said, hey, let's start a program, a nonprofit organization, and let's train low-income and underserved folks to get into technology. Let's give them the skills, get them certified, and try to place them in jobs in technology. And the program we developed is called the Stride Center. It's based here in the Bay Area. It involves a number of tech training programs, as well as some businesses affiliated with the organization. But after I did that, I started another nonprofit organization and then said, hey, what I really am passionate about is technology that helps people, that does good things in the world. And what I do as a consultant is related to what's called technology for the social good. And what that means is I try and help nonprofits, companies, foundations to develop technology tools to do good things. For example, one of the projects I've worked on is developing a device, a solar-powered device, to shoot the internet long distance, 50 miles plus, into remote and rural parts of the developing world. A lot of places where there isn't internet. I've had the pleasure of working on a project to develop a mobile app so that the blind can actually read using a mobile device through text-to-speech. So those are the kind of things I get to work on. And I hope that you, even though you may not know what you're going to do right now, think about a different pathway, okay? And think about different opportunities that you can leverage ultimately to get to a place that you're passionate about. That's it for me.
All right. Hi, my name's Jenny Guzman. So how did I get to where I am now? It's an interesting question. It was also more like a zigzag. Let's see, my background, my parents didn't go to high school. I was first born here, well, except for my mom, but so they're from Mexico. The emphasis there was to work, but we knew that college was important. And so I have 3 older siblings, and one of them went to college but dropped out. And so when I was in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I liked the classes where I liked the professor. Maybe that's similar with most of you. So I liked art because my teacher was really awesome. Home ec, my teacher really she was really good there too. I hated science, I really did. hated those teachers. I did. I'm sorry if they're here, but I did not like them. I used to sleep in that class. I remember physics, AP physics. I actually took that one. Didn't pass the test, but I used to sleep in that class. Okay, maybe that's a poor example. However, okay, let's keep moving forward. So I didn't have my parent. Nobody told me I was supposed to take the ACT, SAT tests. So here comes, and I have friends, it's like September, people are applying for college. I'm like, oh, I'll do that too. I'll apply for college. I'll do what they're all doing. And lo and behold, what's your ACT score? What's your SAT score? I'm like, I didn't take these. Do I need them? And apparently you do. So I went to junior college. So I grew up in the Central Valley, Fresno, and I went to Fresno City College. And because I didn't know what I wanted to do, it was actually really nice because it's really cheap to go there, and you got to take whatever courses you wanted to take. So I took, poli-sci, math, I took PE, just to see what you want to do, physics. And it was there that I actually learned that I actually kind of like physics. And so I took more of those courses and more. And then I talked to other people, didn't really talk to professors, just talked to other students, like, how do you get to, university? And that's when I was told, there's this IGETC, basically a formula. You follow it and you get into a college. So I did that. And I did pretty well. I worked really hard, and I got into UC Berkeley. So I went to Fresno City College for 3 years to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I went to UC Berkeley and finished, where I got a bachelor's in physics. And then how did I get where I am now? Well, I didn't want to get a job right away. So what's the next thing? If you don't want a job, you continue and go to school again. So I went to graduate school. It was really that. It's either work and grow up or stay in school. And in graduate school in physics, they pay for it. You're paid to go to school. Nothing out of pocket. So not like undergraduate, not like undergraduate school. They pay you. And so while in physics in graduate school, I got to go to school. So maybe some of you think that's kind of boring, but whatever. I also got to do research. So I worked with lasers, cooling atoms, all different kinds of lasers. It's pretty awesome. And while in graduate school, I got to go to places like Spain, Italy, Australia, all paid for, because there's conferences in these awesome countries, and they pay you to go. So that was great. And then as I finished graduate school, fortunately, you make a lot of friends. And after that, I got a job at Sandia National Labs. It's located in Livermore. It's this really great research facility. They do so much research there. Different areas. You have people making hydrogen fuel cells, cars that get 100 miles per gallon, easily. You have individuals looking to see how we can detect nuclear bombs. Just a variety of different areas that you can work with. And so that's where I am right now. And while I was there, I also applied to a job at Cal City East Bay. And what I liked about Cal City East Bay is it reminds me of where I went to school. I mean, it's not a junior college, but it's similar. So anyhow, not really quite the straight line, but I kind of just followed my peers, and eventually I found right peers that pointed me in the right direction. Not really my own doing until the very end, but it's okay. It's okay if you don't know what you want to do. It's okay if you know what you want to do right now, and it's okay to change. Like, you might go from art to, physics. That's okay. I have friends who went into college thinking they were going to major in art and music, and ended up doing astronomy and math. I mean, when you go to college, you'll see that there's so many different things you want to do.
I'm Dr. Debbie Budd, president here at Berkeley City College, and I'm here to introduce Congresswoman Barbara Lee. We are delighted that she has joined us today, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about her, what she represents, and what she has already done for our community and our schools. Congresswoman Barbara Lee is a forceful and progressive voice in Congress, dedicated to social and economic justice, international peace, and civil and human rights. Her unflinching and courageous efforts continue to make a difference every day in the lives of our community. First elected in 1998 to represent California's 9th Congressional District, she has established a reputation for principled and independent stands, unafraid to take on tough issues and speak her mind for her constituents, for a more just America, and for a safer world. And by the way, do you know what congressional district you're in? The 9th District. Barbara Lee represents you. Among her many areas, the Congresswoman has been a strong proponent of safe communities, affordable housing, the homeless, low-income energy assistance, and job training and education. Congresswoman Barbara Lee formed the biotech group that was hugely responsible for bringing all of us together here, the community, to develop pathways for student success. You sit here today as a result of the many efforts of the local businesses, schools, colleges, and universities, and community members who've brought together through the help of Congresswoman Lee. Through her work with the U.S. Department of Labor, the 10 community colleges in this area are part of a $15 million biotechnology and advanced manufacturing grant. We see the benefits on a daily basis of the work Congresswoman Lee does at the national level, and I'm confident each of you will see these benefits in the coming years at your high schools and our community colleges. Congresswoman Lee began her political career as an intern in the office of her predecessor, former Congressman and former Oakland Mayor Ron Dellums, where she eventually became the Chief of Staff. Before being elected to Congress, she served in the California State Assembly and in the California State Senate. We are thrilled she has joined us today for our Biotech Partners Conference. Thank you so much for coming. I present Congresswoman Barbara Lee.
First, Dr. Budd, let me thank you for that very generous introduction, but also let me thank you for your tremendous leadership here at Berkeley City Council. We couldn't do any of this if it weren't for you and for you being such a visionary leader. So thank you very much. It is so good to see all of you. And let me apologize for being late, but I want to tell you what's going on and why I was late. I was in San Francisco at the Veterans Memorial with Congresswoman Jackie Spear. We have veterans in our country who have fought in Vietnam, Korea. You know, my dad was a veteran of the Korean War, Second World War. And our veterans are not receiving the benefits that they deserve. The backlog, sometimes we heard cases 20 years backlog. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to help our veterans get the justice that they so deserve. We shouldn't have had these 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan anyway. These veterans served this country bravely and boldly. They did everything we asked them to do, and now we have a duty and responsibility to help them make this transition back. And it's a shame and disgrace that Jackie Spear and myself have to have town meetings and bring the VA in to make sure that these veterans receive some justice. So that's why I was late, but I had to stay there to help with these cases. So thank you all so much for waiting. But let me, and I'll be very brief, but I just want to say to you today that you make me very proud, because we know that STEM education is really a key to your success. It's a key to changing the world. I have some wonderful STEM-related industries in my district, such as the biotech industry, and I want to thank Bear for partnering with us and for being such a tremendous leader in the STEM field. We have an opportunity to really not only change your lives today, but to make sure that your life in the future and the jobs that you want, that you're prepared for those jobs. And as I move around my district, one thing that I continually notice is that we need a workforce that's more diverse. And the issue always comes back to education. And so we need you to diversify our workforce in STEM. And through science, technology, math, and education, you know, we want everyone to benefit from the research and the job training, well, the jobs that are going to result as a result of the job training that you're going to get and the education that you're going to get. Because this is a region, first of all, that's very, very STEM oriented. It's a region that holds many good paying jobs. And unfortunately, many of our schools don't have the resources to provide the type of education because of these terrible cutbacks that you deserve. And so I have to just say to Dr. Budd and to Bear and to all of you that the work through my biotech task force with the Department of Labor, and I want to thank my staff, Colin and Catherine and everyone who has worked on this, because this is important work. It's hard work, but it's important work because we want to bring every dollar that we can find, and I'm an appropriator. I'm on the Appropriations Committee, in case you didn't know, and I'm on the subcommittee that funds STEM education. I want to find every dollar that I can find to bring to my congressional district, because this is one of the most vibrant, one of the most economically diverse, one of the most ethnically diverse districts in the country. And so we want to see the workforce of the future, and that begins right here today with you. And so thank you all again for being attentive. Thank you for being interested. You know, when I was in college, you know, I was good in chemistry. I got A's in chemistry, but I especially like science too much. And I think it was because I wasn't given the kind of future in terms of the job market that I could go into. You today have an opportunity to see what the jobs are of the future, how well they're going to pay, and how you'll be able to grow up and do the things that you want to do because you have people here who care about your education early on while you're in high school. And so thank you again very much for being here today. Learn all you can, and I know that I'm going to be seeing you as you move forward in your high school, college career. But even if you don't go to college, there's so many careers that are possible with just a high school education only, and some training, some workforce training. And so just know whatever path you decide upon, that there is a job for you in STEM. So thank you again, and thank you for being here.
So as I mentioned, what we're going to do here is instead of bringing you back here after your next set of workshops, we're going to have Julie Sinai, Director of Local Government and Community Relations for UC Berkeley, who is going to wrap up at the end. She's actually going to say a few words now, and then we'll go to the breakout sessions, and then you'll leave directly back to school from those breakout sessions. We won't be coming back in here. So, Julie, can I invite you up for a few words?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. Are you guys ready to go? You've been here a long day. I want to do a quick show of hands. How many of you are in biotech academies? Woohoo. How many of you are in green academies? All right. So you know what? I want to tell all of you guys, whether you're in biotech, whether you're in green academies, that you are our future leaders, especially in the state of California. The jobs that exist here and that are growing are in the fields that you're studying right now. And while you may be interested in science, or you may not know whether you're interested in science, the work that you're doing in your English classes, in your history classes, in your science and your geography classes, they are all going to make you the well-rounded student that we need in our communities as adults. And what I want to say right now is that when I go to different industry meetings where we've got higher ed and and industry partners, what I hear and what I read in studies is that they can't find qualified workers right here in the Bay Area. I hear from some of our biotech industries that they can't find qualified workers for the jobs that they have now. Your job is to get the education you need so you can fill those jobs and those jobs don't go somewhere else. Your job is to find what that niche is of your interest and what is the educational pathway that'll get you to those qualified jobs that really pay good wages, that offer benefits, and that give you a career ladder where you can see a future as you move forward. What's really important right now is that there are jobs, there's thousands of jobs out there waiting for you to be ready for them. So at the University of California, Berkeley, where I work, I'm going to do another show of hands that you guys got to raise quietly. How many of you have been on the UC Berkeley campus? Fantastic. I want to invite all of you to come back, and if you haven't been there, to come to the campus. It is 2 blocks that, my directions are off, 2 blocks that way. Your teachers who are in the room, we host tours anytime you want of the campus. We will bring your kids up, and if you have a focus in biotech or in energy or energy efficiency, or you want to look at where new batteries are being developed, we will organize a tour that's specifically related to the class that you're taking. So there's opportunities here at Berkeley City College. There's opportunities at UC Berkeley. We are rich with higher education opportunities here. And what's exciting about the work that's happening right now is that you may not go straight through college in 4 years. You may go, I went to community college for 2 years before I went to a 4-year school and got all my general ed stuff done. You may get a job and then go back to school. We are now working in partnership with the universities and the community colleges and the training programs to create degrees that you are able to get as you move through the process so that you can meet your family needs and you can meet your personal needs and get the education that you want. So I challenge you all to be the ones who can be in the jobs that people are looking for right now, that you take the opportunities that are presented to you with gusto and you jump on it and you do your studies and you look at how all of the work that you're doing together is going to help our region and our economy as well as your future. So thanks so much for being here today, and I wish you the best in all of your endeavors.
Okay, so your agenda has the specific room numbers of each of the 4 breakout sessions. Please pick the one of interest. And on behalf of Cal State East Bay and our planning team, thank you.
Okay, so I got a question for our panel, because I remember when I was your guys' age, one of the things that when we used to go to career fairs and things like this, they weren't so visioned into certain industries. So it was always be a doctor, be a lawyer, be rich, make all the money. Tell us how you guys chose your field, how you get there. You know, what, you know, Dr. Murray, we know your fields because he actually has a lab right down the hall from us, and we took a field trip to STEM yesterday to Dr. Murray's lab to see sea slugs. Coolest part of my day yesterday to see sea slugs.
Sure, I'll go first since I have the mic. I'll just say something really briefly that, you know, I haven't done the research, but I read something that like kids change their majors like 7 times on average, 10 times on average. So I wouldn't even worry about it. Go to college, take your general ed courses, think about what's interesting, and you know, you might change your major a whole bunch of times. So I wouldn't even worry about it now. I, on the other hand, was extremely weirdly unusual in that I think I knew what I wanted to do when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade, and it just kept going and I never changed my mind. But that's totally weirdly unusual. But you know, 2nd, 3rd grade, I knew I was interested in animals. And then I knew the interesting thing about animals was animal behavior. And then I found out that animal behavior is controlled by brains. And so as I advanced in the grades, I realized that animals are controlled by their brains, and I think that's cool. And so by the time I got into high school, I knew that there was this field of neuroscience, and I knew some people were trying to understand how brains control behavior. So I went to college. I went to a college that had a program in neurobiology and behavior. Not just a program in neurobiology, not just a program in behavior, but a program in how neurobiology controls behavior. And so went into that, thought it was really interesting, got into a research lab as a volunteer undergraduate researcher, and that was just great fun, and decided to go into a PhD into it. And like the previous speaker said, you know, PhD is basically a full ride, so you get to do research with this faculty member, and that was really interesting. And I just like figuring out how brains control behavior. And I'll just say incidentally that all of my education was publicly funded. I went to public high schools, public colleges, public universities, and if it weren't for all that support, not to mention the support of my family, it wouldn't have been possible. So I'm really glad to see Barbara Lee was here today to, you know, advocate for public education. And I'll just encourage you guys, when you get to college, if there's some way you can minimize the number of hours you're working. You know, I only had to work 10 hours a week in college. I worked full-time in the summer, but I only had to work 10 hours a week during college, and that was enough to get me, you know, through college, but not enough to kill my grades. And I think when you're working more than 10 hours a week in college, it can really put a damper on your grades. So if there's some way, and obviously I think you know, public education should be better funded, but if there's some way you can get through college with only 10 hours a week or less, try it.
Thank you. So I guess unlike doctor over here, I did not know what I wanted to do from the 2nd or 3rd grade, but I did have a microscope when I was little, and I loved science. I knew that, but I didn't know I wanted to go into that. And unlike doctor, I did not have a parental guidance saying you need to go to college. I went to beauty college when I was in high school and decided this is going to be, you know, good enough for me for now. And I did that for a while, and that's what made me say, you know what, I'm not fulfilled. I want to go back to college. So went to the local junior college, and I worked 2 or 3 jobs, and I only went to college part-time in the beginning. And once I really became dedicated to getting an education and finishing just a bachelor's degree, then I did slow down with the work, and you definitely have to get rid of some of that. But if that's, you know, the way that you have to get through college a little slower, then that's okay too, I think, because after 4 years at community college, I transferred to Berkeley, and I was there for 2 years and got my degree in biochemistry. And along the way, I wasn't quite sure still what I wanted to do. I knew I liked biology, I knew I liked chemistry, and then kind of honed in on forensic science, and that's where I landed. My last year of college, I ended up sort of searching out mentors and people in the field, finding professional organizations. I talked to some of you at the networking about finding an organization that is in a field that you're interested in, and just looking for that. Just look up California Association of blank, and you'll probably find something. And just going to maybe one of their meetings and networking that way, you may be able to find someone to help you out. Let's see. I did have a mentor, and I did go forward finding my way through. And at Berkeley they had, and at your colleges, they'll probably have career days, not like this, but with actual business there, handing out cards and handing out applications for you to maybe get on lists and things. And that's basically how I ended up at California Department of Justice. So did I answer the question just how I got into the fields? Yeah, I guess that's it.
I have a question for you guys. So do all of you know how to get to where you need to be? Can anyone, any one of you guys, do you guys know how to get to where you need to be, or where you want to be, or where you think you want to be? Do you know how to get there? Is that a yes? So everyone here knows exactly what you need to do to get to where you need to be. Yeah. Okay, so there's some that says yes, some that says no, right? And that's totally cool. And I think that's the hardest part. You know, it's like, I want to do this, but how do I get there, right? And that's the challenge sometimes. Sometimes you think you have it all figured out, right? So I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. and that will get me to my ultimate goal. But sometimes life doesn't do that for you, right? And I think you heard a couple people talk about, well, I knew I kinda, and I went zigzag. My path went like this. You know, and my path did not go A, B, C, and D. I thought I knew exactly what it was that I wanted to do. Professor James over here, he said second or third grade, and he was honest. He says, I already knew. I'm very unique in that way because I knew it when I was a little kid, and that's how my life, that was my trajectory. It took me straight there. But sometimes we don't know because maybe we don't have all of those systems in place that allows us to figure this out, right? And sometimes that's why we may go zigzag. And even Jessica alluded like, no, my path wasn't direct and neither was mine. You know, so my path was, yeah, I thought I knew what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a dentist. And then, you know, my life got in the way, and then I kind of went to a JC because I was actually out of school for a while, and just to get my science hands wet again, I went through a program at the Bridge to Biotech in San Francisco just to get my lab hands wet again, right? Remembering how to pipette and, you know, how to run PCR because I had not done that in a long time since being out of school. And then ultimately I met those people, those mentors that were in place that got me to Genentech, right? But my path wasn't direct, right? And so I say that's why I asked that question of you guys, because sometimes you need to talk to the adults and ask the adults, well, you know, what should I be doing? But I think I have this figured out and this is my plan, right? And let's say that your plan kind of goes skew a little bit, right? And so then you come and you speak to any one of us and you figure out how to get yourselves back on track. So now the end thing, right, for you guys is internships. You all know that, right? Everyone in here knows that. To get to where you really want to be, you need to get an internship, right? And I assume you guys are saying yes, that you know this. Yeah. So then the question is, where do you go get an internship and how do you get it, right? Because internships are very, very competitive, right? And some of them are paid and some of them are unpaid, right? And I think some of you may say, well, I'm not going to work for free, right? Because I actually need to work to help support me or maybe help support my family, right? And that, I think maybe for some of you that might be a true reality, right? So then the question is, well, shoot, how am I going to get to where I need to be? But I also need a summer job because I need to make money, right? Because I want to be able to go to high school and be able to get some of the things that I need and also be able to take care of, you know, what I got to do for family. So, and that's at the high school level. So then you say, well, I need to talk to someone that I met in my networking, right, and figure this out, because maybe they can work something out for you because you know that you want to be a neuroscientist, or you want to be a veterinarian, or you want to be a registered nurse, or you want to do something in the technology field, even though that you guys are not, but those things actually overlap, right? So you need to make sure that as a high school student, that you guys are getting internships in the area that you're interested in pursuing, so that you can actually kind of figure this out. Do I actually like doing this? But at the end of the day, your ultimate goal is to do what? Hopefully I'm right on this. Your ultimate goal is to go to college. Is that yes? Yes. Even if you don't know what you want to do, your ultimate goal is to go on to college. And that's what we want for you, right? And we don't want you to take the complicated path and have to go, you know, the zigzag. You know, if we can make it straightforward for you guys, then that's what we're here to do. And we want that to be the process. You know, and sometimes it becomes financial. You say, well, I'm going to go the JC route because I cannot afford to go to a 4-year university because I come from a single-family household, right? Okay, then yes, James, I can probably keep going. But, you know, there are people in the room that says, okay, you want to go the JC route, but come talk to me first because maybe I can make something work for you and we can get you into a 4-year college and give you the support system, because there's people in the room right now at the back of the room that can help you with enrollment.
Yeah. So what she said, you know, her beginning question is, you know, do you know the path? Do you know where to go next? And you talk a lot about, you hear a lot about mentors, and you don't necessarily need, to find the one mentor who's going to make your life golden. There are mentors everywhere. And so I think, like she's saying, ask questions, go seek people out, and seek these experiences. In high school, I didn't seek out a mentor or have a mentor, but I had, teachers that I was copacetic with, and they had good advice. So I say, talk to people, ask questions all the time. And then as far as internships, again, I needed to work for money too. I worked, 20 hours a week when I was in school, in high school, and then I got internship opportunities. It was 1 week, a couple hours a day for a week internship, and I got an all day on a Saturday internship. And even though those weren't paid and they weren't long, they were really instrumental. One of them was with a pediatric neurologist. I decided I didn't want to do that. And the other one was all day shadowing a bunch of neuroscience professors. I decided I want to do that. So, even short little internships can be really useful, and just, seek out people, ask questions. So when you're thinking, I don't know where to go for this, just ask. There's lots of people out there who want to help, and squeaky wheels are going to get the grease. So be squeaky and make noise, and go out there and find people who want to help you, because there really are a lot of people out there who want to help you.
You guys get any questions? Wait, I got a mentor question first. Can I ask that first? Oh, do we have another? Oh, we got a question over here. Good question.
So like a pretty much typical case for me would be from start to finish. I was kind of talking to some of the other people out there. You would, essentially our lab gets samples from coroners, that's unidentified remains, and then we get samples from law enforcement agencies, and that's family members of people who have missing loved ones. And so there's kind of those two different indices that we have. But for me, on a regular basis, I'll get assigned a case, or I'll pull a case that it has higher priority than some others, and maybe it's a bone, let's say. So I'll go into the freezer, grab that bone, bring it into the bone lab, and I will sample the bone using your typical Dremel tool that maybe your parents have. Use a sanding band, and I cut out a section of the bone about this big. And then I put it into a freezer mill, and the freezer mill uses liquid nitrogen, which makes it very cold, a little more brittle, and then there's an plugged impactor in there, and it crushes up that chunk of bone into a fine powder. And then I take that powder and I bring it into the extraction lab, and I do a DNA extraction, which is just I like to explain it kind of like when you make coffee and you're extracting the caffeine out of the coffee grounds, similar to that. And I'll use that DNA, and I will see how much I have. So then I bring it to another machine, and that tells me how much DNA did you get out of this bone. Oh, well, it's not very much DNA, so maybe I go one way or another way based on what that information tells me. And then I will amplify the DNA of interest, and that DNA will either be nuclear DNA, which you get one copy from mom, one copy of dad, the chromosomes and all that good stuff, or it might be mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down from your mother's side. So your mother has the same exact mitochondrial DNA type as you, and your mother's mother all the way down your maternal line. So I may decide to do that type, and I will amplify whatever specific target that I decide to amplify on this case, depending upon how much DNA I've obtained. And then from that amplified DNA, I'll do a series of other things, but the main outcome towards the end is that I use capillary electrophoresis to separate these different amplified regions by size. And everybody's pattern that essentially comes out of this information is unique as far as the nuclear type. Let me clarify, because we did talk about sequencing a little bit. And for the mitochondrial type, like I said, you have the exact same type as your mother. So we don't use mitochondrial DNA as a unique identifier. So if we only have mitochondrial match for a family to an unidentified remains to a missing persons, we'll say that it can't be excluded as coming from the same maternal lineage. If it's and then we'll give a statistical value to that information so that the agency can use that. If it's a STR type, then we'll say, a stat based on that. And I will call up the agency and say, hey, you know what? It's 100,000 times more likely that this person is related to the family, as you stated, than if they're unrelated. And then the coroner will go back and say, I'm going to call this an identification. And then we will send those remains back, and they'll put it with the rest of the remains, and then they'll give it to the family members and identify as their missing loved one. So, does that answer? Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Go ahead.
If you don't mind, I was just going to say, I put out those handouts, if you got a little color handout. The CSU East Bay is having a science festival in October, and we're opening up our labs, and we got demonstrations, stuff like that. So that's just fun to come to, and you can learn a bunch of things. And then the other thing that's advertised there is in January of 2014, we're having the 3rd annual Brain Bee, which is open to all high school students. And it's like a spelling bee, except all the questions about the brain and nervous system. So hopefully I'll see some of you guys there if you're interested.
I just wanted to know, I know in the working world, which I've been a part of for a long time also, we all have things that we love to do and things that we don't love to do, and I was wondering if you could each pick one thing in your current work that just gets you totally pumped when you get out of bed in the morning to go to work.
Cool. I mean, I love doing experiments, and like I said, I'm interested in how the nervous system controls behavior. And the nervous system generates these things called action potentials you may have heard of. They're electrical impulses. And I play these electrical impulses into a speaker. And so what you hear is womp, 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 womp. And that is the sound of a nerve cell sending signals. And there might be 1,000 nerve cells in there, so you might hear and it makes this great sound, and that's I really love that sound, and so I'll turn my nervous system and turn on the speakers, and I like listening to that popping sound. It's like, oh good, I'm recording from nervous system, I feel good.
That's your love. Do you have your
the other thing that I have to do is I have to write grants to get money to buy the animals, buy the supplies, and equipment and stuff like that. And that's a drag. I just, right. My research is so exciting, and I do think my research is exciting. I just don't like trying to convince other people that my research is exciting. You have to write 20 pages of why my research is wonderful and why you should send me $1 million. And I just don't like asking and writing all that down. I guess if I could talk to people about it and say, can I do a little, presentation? I might enjoy it more, but you have to write 20 pages, send it off to the federal government. It's kind of a drag.
So I would say that my favorite thing about my job is probably when I do get an ID, calling the agency and just hearing the joy in their voice of, like, I just actually talked to someone yesterday, and she said, you know what? You just made my day, and I'm, can't wait to tell the family. Actually, she couldn't wait to prosecute an individual who's on trial as well, but she was so excited to be able to tell the family members about this person. And that's probably the most rewarding thing. And so yesterday morning when I woke up to go to work, I was excited to go because I knew that that's what I was going to get to do. So all my work for the last, couple weeks or whatever is actually coming to the conclusion that you're hoping for. But, you kind of look for, as far as like a scientific hypothesis, to maybe how can I exclude, sort of, but then when you get an inclusion, there's no possible way to exclude this person, so that's the answer that you're looking for. So that's kind of exciting. I would say the worst thing about my job is probably filling out timesheets or doing site visits for grant updates and things like that. Yeah, it's all the paperwork, writing crap. So, you need this, I don't know.
So what's exciting about what I do? I think, a lot of times because I'm at the bench, the most exciting thing is knowing that, what I'm working on really doesn't yet have a name, right? So what drives me, this has to drive you every day, because sometimes it's not as tangible because you can't see it and you don't know whether or not what you're working on ultimately is going to even make it to our medicine pipeline, right? But you know that what you're working on has the potential, right, to make someone's life better. And so it's like, you know, if a person has some type of a disease and there's no cure for it, and you're working on a particular gene that maybe has the potential, you're saying to yourself, okay, this is good, I'm excited about it, and you want this, you want it to work, so you keep, and you go in there and you'll do the experiment, and you keep coming in every day because it's like, I'm excited about this project because it eventually, you know, it has the potential to make it into our drug pipeline so that it can be a potential target to make someone well, right? And so I think that's what it drives me every day, because sometimes there are days when, it's, be honest, like, no, I don't feel like going to work on Mondays. I hate Mondays. Don't ask me why, but I don't like going to work on Mondays, but I still go. And so, you know, that's, you know, I don't think there's any one particular thing that I dislike about my job. I think I actually enjoy where I work, and I think there are a lot of systems in place at our work where they want to keep you there, and they want you to stay there for, like, you know, until it's and you actually don't ever go home. You know, you can go to the gym, you can shower, you can eat dinner, whatever you want. You can go and do a jog along the Bay Trail. You can do whatever you want because we want you to stay here. So that's kind of like cool because they put those systems in place so you're like, I don't really need to go home because I can do everything right here, right? And then maybe they'll give you a concert so that, you know, it's like, oh yeah, this is really cool. I'm feeling inspired now because we got a concert coming up on Friday. So, like, for example, I'll share this with you. So our 30th, and so Genentech's 30th anniversary, before we were brought out by Roche, right? They had the Black Eyed Peas and the Foo Fighters and John Dylan and one other group come, and they did a concert at our site. And so there was a big, huge stage production. So basically, they turned our parking lot into a concert venue, right? And that was one of the cool things. So you say, well, like, what types of things drive you? Like, yeah, you always kind of look forward to some special moment where you have something going on, and you say, yep, that's what keeps me working. That's what keeps me coming to work every day, because you're going to work hard, right? And at the end of the day, you get to play, right? So you work hard, and then you get to play, and you say, this is cool. And I don't dress up at work. I only dressed up for you guys. Like, so it's jeans and a t-shirt. So our culture is jeans and a t-shirt, and that is it, right? And so you'll come, if you guys were ever to come to Genentech, that is the predominant culture there. It's like you wear jeans and you wear a t-shirt, and putting on clothes is kind of like, you don't really have to. It's kind of like up to you.
So real quick, there we got one more because we're getting ready. Oh, we got two more, and then.
Does the Genentech give internships to the biotech program?
That is something I wish Genentech would do. So apparently they did have a program in place some time ago, and I don't know if they're going to try to resurrect that program where they did. They had high school students come in and do internships, right? And I think that's an important piece to this. And I applaud Bear, like, to the umpteenth degree, because Bear gets it. Bear is giving high school kids internships and creating that, right? But Genentech they're not there yet. So, you know, what, are you a freshman, sophomore? You're a junior, right? So, I mean, but the Gladstone Institute gives internships, right? And so all you want to do is just get yourself an internship, and eventually you're going to get, you know, you're going to get your foot in the door if ultimately you kind of heard great things about a company, and that's where you want to be, right? So like the Gladstone Institute in San Francisco, right? And apparently you can cold call, like you can find someone who's doing a research project that you have of interest. You can call them or email them and say, hey, you know what, I heard about this great research you're doing. Would it be possible for me to come and meet with you, hear a little bit more about what you do? And apparently just by starting that conversation, ultimately you could potentially get an internship. Maybe it wouldn't be paid, but like the professor said, there's a possibility that, well, maybe just come in like 2 or 3 days out of the week, right? Or something that works for you. So I'm hoping that one day Genentech will resurrect that program and really start to see the value of high school kids, because I see it, and I just wish that they would do that, because I think it's disappointing. I'm really disappointed.
Did we still have one more question? Okay.
In Genentech, do you work with DNA from other organisms and extract DNA from other organisms?
Yes, so from animals. So usually the DNA that usually the DNA we get is coming from a animal model, right? Or so it could be mouse, rat, monkey, and even baboon, right? Even baboon. So it's usually animal models, so the DNA gets extracted, and it's actually done exactly the same way that Jessica would extract DNA, right? And then it goes through the same sequencing process, and maybe the chemistry that we use to actually get the samples to the sequencer might be slightly different, but the process is exactly the same. So that's why, yeah. So what we're saying is that there are many career opportunities and choices, right? So you can go and Sanger sequencing, and Jessica just mentioned that they're looking to go into next generation sequencing for some of their stuff. And so you can see that there's total overlap and there's many career opportunities. It's just, maybe you're thinking genetics, but genetics doesn't necessarily have to be at the university. It could be at the DOJ. It could be at Bayer. It could be at Genentech. So, and that's just giving you guys many, many, many different career options. And so that's why the internship is important.